Hi everybody, this is a tutorial on how to make a Minnie Mouse Cake Topper. I'm using SVGs that I just found on Google and I kind of tweak them to my liking and kind of play around with it as I go. I'm a graphic designer, so that's kind of what I do. So any SVGs you may need, I suggest going to either Google or Etsy or whoever you want to buy your SVGs from. But here you can see I uploaded a Mickey Mouse head and a bow. I'm going to duplicate the bow and contour one of them. I'm going to hide all the contours. Now what this does is it makes it solid. And here I'm going to change the color to the color that I want and change the color of the outline because I want the bow to be outlined once it's printed and cut out. And here you can see I'm just resizing it to the size that I would like. There's no set size or no standard size, just kind of whatever you were looking for on your cake. You can see the dimensions there on the top and the right. That's how big the Minnie Mouse head will be. And I'm positioning the bow to about the same size that I want it to be. Then I'm going to be inserting some text. I'm writing happy birthday for this cake topper, and I'm going to go ahead and change the font. But actually, I made a mistake here. I realized that I wanted to go ahead and write happy and birthday separately. So go ahead and write happy and birthday separately. This is going to help because I don't want the words to be right next to each other when I cut it out. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the font. Now you'll have to pay attention because there's multiple Cricut fonts, but unless you subscribe to the $9.99 a month Cricut Access, you're not going to have any of those fonts. I download my fonts from Google personally, so you'll want to click on System. That's going to be all your downloaded fonts. I can make a video or answer some questions on how to download and install fonts on your computer if you're unsure how. But here I am, I'm just selecting what kind of font I want for this topper, and I'm going through a couple of them to decide on which one I'd like. And now I'm going to go ahead and just search the font that I just used for happy so I can apply it to birthday. That way I have two separate text boxes for happy and birthday in the same font. And I'm going to go ahead and weld them together so that the words don't come apart, everything's connected, smooth lines. The weld button's at the bottom right of the design space. Then you're going to see the offset button at the top. For me, I just eyeball it to see what I kind of like. And then I remember the little text box there with numbers in it, and I apply that to both text boxes. So for this, you can see I've decided to use the 0.125. I'm going to apply it. Now my design space does run a little slow. I never used to have the offset feature, so I'm just glad I got it. If yours doesn't work, I suggest contacting Cricut support. But here I am again. I'm going to apply the 0.125 to the next text box here. And you'll see you'll have two little shapes here that are going to go behind your text. And I'm going to change the colors of those because I'm going to cut them in a different color cardstock. And here you can see I am placing now the text over the offset here in the colors that I've chosen. You can choose any colors you have, whatever cardstock you have at home. And here I'm going to be figuring out the font I want for the number 2. I'm making a birthday cake topper for a 2-year-old little girl. And I am doing the number 2 in a different font than I am in the happy birthday, simply because I want it to become bolder than the rest, but still the same offset. So as you can see, I found a bold number 2 that I want to use for this. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to the colors that I desire. Now here I'm kind of playing around with how big to make that little ND next to the 2. I don't really want it to be the same size as the 2 or the same size as the happy birthday, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it again and seeing what looks nice. Now for this part, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the little Mickey Mouse ear here, Mickey Mouse head, excuse me, and I'm going to make the mini ones that go on the side of happy and birthday. Now this is completely optional. I just added this in because I thought it was a nice little cute touch. So this is what I'm doing here, and I'm sending it to the back of the text just to see how it's going to look and what size I approximately need it. Again, you can see I'm doing it to the happy, just moving the text in front of it just to see what size I need this. Again, this is optional, just a little extra that I added to the topper. Now you can see that I have all the separate pieces completed. I'm going to go ahead and start building it together on Design Space just to get an idea of what it's going to look like when I actually cut it out. Also, if you don't group these all together, you will need to kind of click off a little bit and drag so that you can collectively pull everything at the same exact time. Otherwise, they're going to come in pieces. And here I'm just positioning it exactly how I want it, exactly kind of how I want it to look, and then I'm going to be ready to cut. Now remember, Design Space isn't a printer, it's for cutting, so of course everything I'm doing on screen is just for me to visualize later on how I want to assemble it when it's actually cut. When I am all ready to cut, I'm going to go to the top right and I'm going to click Make It. Here I have decided to go ahead and change the colors last minute. I decided that I wanted to do this in pink instead because I found some cardstock. Again, use whatever you have on hand. I use cardstock just from Michael's. And then once you are ready to cut, you can go to the corner and hit Make It. Now, if you would like a tutorial on how to use Cricut Design Space or any questions about Design Space in general, if you're a real beginner and unsure on how to use it, feel free to leave any comments and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. Or I can make a YouTube short or another small video on explaining the Cricut features and how to use Cricut in general. So for this, you're going to see I'm going to have a red, a pink, and a lighter pink, and a white. Um, I'm just showing you the details here on the actual design. Again, when you are ready to cut, hit Make It. I apologize, this is my first tutorial. But then you're going to go ahead and see all the mats. They're all going to be separated by colors that you need. So the outline of the bow will be in white, the bow and the words and the number will be in the red that I chose. And then the pink, you can move these all around on the mat, whatever size paper that you have. These can all be moved in this little section here. And here I have the pink, and I'm just showing you how they're separated on the mat. Here on the mats, you can see exactly what size you're going to be cutting. You cannot resize here. You have to hit cancel and go back to resize if you'd like to resize your objects. This is only where you can turn them or hide objects depending on your paper size. If you guys need a Cricut tutorial on how to use your machine, I'd be glad to answer any questions about that. Personally, I think everybody uses their machine a little differently, but I'm going to go ahead and turn on mine, and you'll see I have the Air 2. And for each color, I'm going to be selecting a different paper. So I personally set my dial on my Cricut to custom and select my material in Design Space. Some will be glitter cardstock, some will be regular, some will have a more cut, and some will just have a default cut. And here's all the materials we are going to be using. As you can see, I have the pink one in the center there. I cut that out last minute. It's just as a guide if you want to use it when you're actually gluing everything together. You can layer it. I choose not to use the guide as I want just creative freedom. I personally use some pointy tweezers and an X-Acto knife because some of those tiny little pieces of cardstock are a little difficult to get out when you're cutting cursive and such small words. To put it together, I use tacky glue. I just use the white one because it dries clear, and I have some Q-tips with pointy ends instead of rounded, and a hot glue gun, Gorilla Glue, on low temp. So go ahead and get started. I have this sped up a little bit because obviously you don't want to see me sit here for 15 minutes and assemble this, but that's about how long it took me in real time, about 15 minutes. Again, I set that piece to the side. That's just a guide if you'd like to put that down, and then you could glue everything kind of on top of it. But for me, I like to use creative freedom and just kind of move it around as I go. Here you can see I'm taking some of the tacky glue and putting it on a scrap piece of paper. That's just my personal preference. Um, and then I am taking these Q-tips that are pointy. I got them off Amazon. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue the pieces together. As you can see, I'm taking the red too and gluing it to the offset pink that I cut out. Just apply light pressure. If you apply too much pressure, tacky glue allows the paper, when glued together, to kind of slide around, which can be helpful. So just apply some light pressure, squeeze on it for a minute. I found tacky glue really works well with paper, so you really don't need a lot of pressure to get it to stick. For these smaller letters, I just kind of hold them, get some glue on my fingers, no big deal, or you can use the tweezers to hold on to it and kind of position it. Again, light pressure, pressing it on, and then you can go ahead and set that to the side as you continue to follow this process. Now you will find the tiny little thin pieces are going to be a little difficult for you, but don't be afraid of making a mess. The glue will dry clear. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and I go and do little glue dots, but if the glue smears out, it's okay. It dries clear. They do make a clear tacky glue if you'd like to use that instead, but I found that there's really no need for that. So here I am gluing the little bow outline onto the solid color bow so that you can see the bow there. Placing something like this with tweezers really does help because it kind of makes it more precise, but you should be able to do it with your fingers as well just fine because like I said, tacky glue allows you to move it around a little bit if need be. And again, this is just my way of doing it. I really do like to put the tacky glue on a scrap piece of paper and dip my Q-tip into it. It's just easier than me having the bottle open to dip, and I don't use the tip of the tacky glue. I like to use the Q-tip. Now, the birthday is a little bit of a longer word, so it was a little bit more difficult to hold with the tweezers without some sagging on the sides. So I just held this in my hand and kind of just did some dots. A little tacky glue really does go a long way. So you can either choose to smear it on with the Q-tip or just do dots every now and then. It will end up sticking just fine. You can pat gently and use a Q-tip to clean any excess glue off so that you don't have any that will dry and be in the way. And then don't forget your little tiny eye dot. A lot of people want to just forget about that, but that little tiny eye, that's why the tweezers come in handy for gluing that down. The Q-tip can kind of push it on there. Now we're going to go ahead and start to assemble. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the bottom of the bow here. For this one, I kind of smear it on and then put a little extra dab in the middle just so it has a good hold on it, because it will get kind of heavy once you're layering it. A gentle little push and a little squeeze, and then it's complete, and you can keep going and repeating the process. And as you can see here, I'm just kind of playing around with how I want it to be assembled and kind of moving things around a little bit. That is why you can weld the whole thing together, make a copy of it, weld the whole thing together in Design Space, and it will print out or cut out, excuse me, a silhouette of the shape that you are wanting to make the cake topper. And then you can do the same exact process as we already did here, except at the end you'll be able to glue it right on top of that silhouette, so it's the exact same look as it was in Design Space. But for me, I like a little bit of creative expression and just kind of go for it at the end. So I don't really need that piece, but if you do have questions about that, please let me know and I will be happy to help you. So you'll see I was pushing on it a little bit, just giving it a little bit of pressure to make sure it sticks really good, squeezing it gently. In real time, like I said, this took me about 15 minutes, so it didn't take too much time, but I like to use my Cricut self-healing mat underneath it because it's got the ruler on it. I can kind of line up everything and make sure it's straight. Or if you're looking for more of a slanted look, that's fine too. It ends up looking good either way. I just follow the lines on my mat to kind of line it up, make sure everything's straight. It's also helpful to lay it out first to make sure you know where you're applying the glue to, because obviously you don't need to apply glue to the whole word happy or the whole word birthday, just to the parts that you need the glue on. So for happy, I just put a little bit on the Y, and for birthday, I'm ending up putting it on the dot of the I and the T and the H, just to glue it right on the bottom of Minnie Mouse. Now that it's completed, I'm going to go ahead and add the cute little Minnie Mouse heads, and I'm going to apply the glue to the glitter side. I made the mistake of accidentally applying it to the back side because I was so used to that, but make sure to apply it to the front of the color cardstock side because you're going to be putting it behind the words happy and birthday, just as a little extra cuteness on there. And here you're about to see me drop it on accident right, oh, there it goes. I just wiped it off, but it's fine because the glue, it dries clear. Didn't even know I made a mistake. It happens. Go ahead and give it a firm press, and there it is. It's beautiful. Now you're going to be gluing the stick to the back. I like to use Gorilla Glue hot glue, and I found these food picks on Amazon. You can get cake pop sticks as well. I like how these ones have like a flat top to them because it feels like it gives more support to the back of the cake topper. And I make sure to put the glue on the side that has the little branding on it to hide that. Again, I use Gorilla Glue hot glue. I find it's the best hot glue out there, and it has a very strong hold. I go ahead and line up my cake topper, and I get my glue ready, and I make sure that the glue is on a low temp. Low temp will dry much faster and it has a very strong hold. So I apply the glue to the back of my pick, turn my cake topper, and kind of line it up as straight as I can and approximately where I'd want it, and go ahead and drop it. Press firmly, and it only needs a few seconds because low temp will dry fairly quickly, and then you will be able to pick it right up and see your final results. And there you have it. There is your cake topper. Next, I'm going to show you how to make cupcake toppers. It's the same exact way that you'd cut it out in the Cricut, um, except instead of these large picks, you'll be using just small mini toothpicks. And there is another cake topper I've done in different colors. Again, if you want to know how to do um, the dots in the bow or any other questions, I can answer that for you. Again, you can just find any SVGs from any source that you like to use. So here are some cupcake toppers that I cut previously. I just make them like 1.5 inches by one approximately, whatever size you think that you want them to be. And then you're going to take that and you're going to put just a little bit of glue, low temp, same thing, on the back of a regular toothpick. Go ahead and put the glue on there and then gently press it on there, and it dries very quickly. I like to swirl my glue gun because it kind of gets rid of the wispies that come with hot glue. Put a little bit of pressure down and you'll be done with your cupcake toppers. Thank you so much for watching. I will be happy to help anybody with any questions. Just let me know. This is my first tutorial, so thank you for watching.